Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, November 16th, 2020. Wow, we're already on the second half of November. This month went by super fast. Hello. My name is Tristan Johnson, the host of YouTube channels Tristan Won't Shut Up and Step Back History. I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown of my streaming schedule. This is Romeo, by the way, who's hanging out down there. The graphic seems to be covering him up, but maybe I should pause the graphic for the sake of more cat. One sec, let me do that. I'm trying to remember which thing that is. All right, I'm not. It's gonna be. Oh, here we go. There we go. You can see cat for a little bit. I'll put this back later. Okay. Now, let me, yeah, okay. So my streaming schedule, all of this is going to be Eastern time, USA time, Canada time. You know, you guys know the time zone I live in. If you don't, if you're a new person though, you know, convert accordingly. But I stream on Mondays. So we do the Monday Discourse today, which is what you're watching right now, which goes from 12 till 2 Eastern on Mondays. Then on Tuesday nights, I do Step Back Tonight, which is a stream I do at nighttime, where we talk about, well, it's more just like the chill out stream. It's more like a regular stream where I just like hang out with the chat and stuff. And then I have on Fridays from 12 to 2, I do the Reactor, which is a stream where I react to things that people send me. It's real fun. Hey, Namalo, thank you for following. Welcome to our gang. I go by he, him pronouns, and if you find my work, you can go. If you want my work, you can go to stepbackhistory.com, TristanWon'tShutUp.com, or TristanPJ on Twitter. And if you have Amazon Prime, because you wanted to make sure that you saved on shipping fees during this Christmas season, then you also get one free Twitch Prime subscription per month, which, if you choose Step Back History, I will be very grateful, but I would recommend that you use it to help any independent creator on Twitch, because if you don't use it, then Jeff Bezos gets to keep your money. And as we've said, he keeps it so that he can have sex with it. That's why he's so rich, everybody. As for like latest work, the latest video on Step Back is on the rights abuse of history and Dinesh D'Souza and all that kind of stuff. And the latest video on Tristan Won't Shut Up actually came out just over an hour ago, and it's about it's basically like a sort of post-mortem for the 2020 election. And then my next Step Back video comes out tomorrow, and it's on the Vietnam War and militia groups and how the KKK and neo-Nazis made an alliance through a common love of anti-communism and its sort of white supremacist undertones. So that'll be fun. I definitely gloss over a lot in that video, so I plan on probably, I talk about 2 historical events in that video that I'll be probably drilling into if this video does well. And the next Tristan Won't Shut Up, which I think I'm going to begin work on tomorrow, is about Star Trek. I'm finally going to make my Star Trek video, so be ready for that one. It's exciting times. I love that Romeo is just like passed out. Like, he's like, most cats would get into the cat bed and like curl up or something, and Romeo's just like, nah, fuck it, I'm a flop. With all of that stuff being said, I got one more thing to show you before Mia shows up. So, I received a wonderful gift from somebody to my P.O. box, and I don't know who it is yet, and if it's the site itself, but somebody purchased for me on Working Class History this amazing print that you see in the background here. So for anyone who doesn't know, Emma Goldman is my favorite historical figure, and she what's it called? And this is a print of her mugshot from when she was arrested in connection with the assassination of William McKinley. So it's beautiful. I love it. I love it so, so much. Having a mugshot of Emma Goldman that I can hang in my office fucking rules. So that I'm really happy to see. I'm so excited. I imagine, I think that it was from workingclasshistory.com. I can't confirm that Working Class History sent me these prints or if somebody bought it. But one thing I can say is that I didn't just get one of these. They sent me 4 of them. As you can see, this is another one that I have here. And, yeah. I'm probably going to find some sort of giveaway to do for these prints. And my hope is that I can... it came framed already. Yes, it did. So yeah, I'm going to try to find something worthy of Emma Goldman's legacy to turn that into a giveaway. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm really excited to have 3 of these to give away. I'm going to keep one. Sorry, I love it too much. I love it so, so, so much. Like, I literally, several times in the last, 24 hours have walked into my office and seen the picture and just smiled at just seeing Emma Goldman looking like a badass in my thing. So, yeah. Now let's call Mia Mulder.
Oh no! Oh god!
Everything okay?
Everything is not as it's supposed to be. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, everything is fine now.
We're good?
Yeah. We have rotated PDF. Technology is working. Hello.
Sweet. How you doing?
Welcome. I'm doing well. I come from the land of eternal night, and I'm just happy to talk to someone who actually have seen the sun in the last week.
I mean, I can't promise that. We're like an eternal cloudy darkness, but
In theory, there is a sun somewhere, though.
Yes. Yeah, the sun is up. There are several clouds keeping it from us, but yes. We're having this hell of a weird system right now where we're literally getting the worst windstorm in decades.
Oh no.
So the wind, I think some parts of the province were getting 100 kph winds. It's weird. It's freaking weird.
That's a lot of wind.
It is a lot of wind.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's not fun amounts of wind. But enough about me. Who are you and what are you doing here is what a lot of people are asking.
People have been saying this. I don't know who I am or why I am here. However, I am Mia Mulder. I make Mia Mulder content on miamulder.com, which you can go to if you want.
And Nebula/C/Mia Mulder.
Something like that, yeah. YouTube.com/Mia Mulder or watchnebula.com/Mia Mulder.
There, I just reframed you in the picture, and you're so much more prominent than you were.
Oh, look at that! Nice. I love being prominent.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Carrie111112222 for subscribing, and hey, Chrisiosity has followed. Welcome.
Nice.
You found my TikTok. Nice. Whoa, we were. Wow.
Oh, you are. King of the castle. King of the castle.
For the record, that's become a trendy audio on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it's fucking hilarious. I have a chair. I have a chair.
I have a chair. I have a chair. Whoa, we were.
The best one is it's being picked up by people with disabled people to show off their what's it called, all of their assistive technology.
Yeah, they're either in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah. All right.
I remember specifically seeing a TikTok where someone was trying to access a building that wasn't like up to code, like it wasn't wheelchair accessible at all.
Oh boy.
But what they had was some like weird chair lift thing. So they just had that audio like, "Wah, king of the castle, I have a chair," and just lifts slowly up like this big of a like step.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah.
So hard to.
But
just,
yeah,
like, put a ramp
I'm
on
here.
something. I love that.
I am
like,
here. I'm at the Monday Discourse. We are doing.
We're discoursing.
We're
This is
discoursing.
the first annual meeting of the Breadtube Elite, the cabal, the dark cabal that runs the world.
Oh, we're like, let's be honest. Neither of us are in the Breadtube Elite. We are adjacent.
We are associate members. We're what's it called?
We are currently in the process of membership.
Initiates.
Neophytes. We're Breadtube neophytes. Yeah. We are the ones who the Breadtube Elite gets to do all the hard work in the Breadtube dungeons.
It's true. Whenever we need to like overthrow an election or suppress Peter Coffin content, that's our job. We have to do all the dirty work. Hello, is this the synthetic AstroTurf stream? Yes. So I don't know if you've seen some Tristan Won't Shut Up videos, but I always introduce myself based on weird things people have called me in the comments.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest ones that has come up lately is that I've been called synthetic AstroTurf, where somebody saw a Tristan Won't Shut Up video and concluded that I am a psyop by the CIA because of how highly produced and high quality content, where it's like, this channel has 7,000 subscribers and it's only been around for 3 months, and it has such high production values that this must be like a creation by the CIA in order to dissuade real communist, i.e. tanky ideology or whatever. And I was like, Peter Coffin, please stop commenting on my videos. But also,
God, I feel so bad for like shit talking Peter Coffin sometimes, because Peter gave me like one of the biggest boosts. Well, like when I was starting my channel, and like gave me like a big lift as a content creator, but then they just never stop tweeting.
Yes, they have a medical condition where they feel physical pain when not constantly posting on twitter.com.
Yeah.
And has now like just like, I don't know, like X-tupled down on some of the worst takes imaginable, that is just like, okay. Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, you got a job at the CIA though, so you're good. You're CIA elite now. Yeah. Well, are you being paid by Soros as well?
I mean, okay, if you're dumb enough to think that the CIA didn't make Breadtube, then fine.
I swear there are a lot of people who fully believe that everything in the sort of like lefty YouTube space are all psyops by the CIA. Because we won't defend Stalin at every breath.
Well, I'm the CIA because I've said that we probably shouldn't do a cultural genocide of Chinese Muslims, but
how dare you say that? You're anti-revolutionary. We sentence you. Yeah.
You know, the family, the country that has the Huawei billionaire family is the only hope for a true communist revolution. This is how it goes. All right, and
starting off strong.
Yeah, someone said a German, Guten Abend, which I imagine means good Abend.
You're not wrong.
Okay, we got our first question. It's welcome to the podcast response zone. No, this isn't the podcast response zone yet. But I just got a few more. Slighty Flighty one, thank you for following. Hunter __ Biden, thank you for following. And thank you for subscribing, RMRIC0. You are all nice. Wonderful creatures that somehow make, like, somehow the rent check goes through and I don't end up being evicted, and you guys are to thank for it. So much appreciated. Okay, so actually, Didn't I remember you saying on Twitter that you actually were a fan of the hit NBC TV show and follow-up to 24, Designated Survivor?
Yes. I have seen a significant amount of Designated Survivor, yes.
I saw 2 episodes before I was like, I don't even know what kind of size of oof this is. And I was like, no more of this, please.
Yeah, it's not very good. It is very much like if enlightened centrism got to make like basically a reboot of the West Wing.
So, suppose some kind of designated survivor situation put a really left-wing person in the White House. Would you want them to do a lot of left-wing stuff, even though they'd have no Democratic mandate to? Like, imagine in 2025, Harris gave AOC some token cabinet position, then the State of the Union gets hit with an asteroid and she's the only survivor. Something makes you think that in such situation, President Ocasio-Cortez would have a few things that are high on the urgency list besides implementing, like, you know, forgiving student loan debt, if it's like dealing with the fact that Washington's been hit with an asteroid.
Yeah, just Washington's just gone.
But that's the letter of the question, not the spirit of the question, which is, would you be cool with left-wing reforms if it was done by a president who wasn't technically elected?
I mean, as long as they can. So it depends on the legitimacy, right? The question. I think the question sort of hinges on how much the designated survivor would have in terms of legitimacy, which would be very much like low if they are unelected, but they might still be able to maintain it somehow. So it all depends on like what people kind of want. If AOC president is seen as legitimate and has the support of most of government at the state apparatus and stuff like that, she can do whatever the fuck she wants. But if she doesn't, then she'll probably have to like tread a more like provisional line, you know, until things happen. The idea of legitimacy in a lot of democracies are held up by the fact that elected means legitimate and unelected means bad. But there's such a like wide gray area in between that, which people who don't live in democracies know about, and that democracies also knew about in the early days of democracy, but now we've become a bit complacent, and there is that. But if that sort of situation happened, that gray area is something that people would have to familiarize themselves with intensely.
Yeah. So the first thing I can think of are the two corollaries where a president or an unelected, very ideologically divergent from their predecessor president came into power. I can think of 2 times this happened. One was Harry S. Truman. For the record, S is not a real middle name because Harry Truman didn't have a middle name, but he wanted to seem sophisticated.
So he just added the letter S?
Yeah, to imply that he has a middle name. So Harry S. Truman, when he took over for when FDR died, and Lyndon B. Johnson, when he took over when Kennedy died. And in both those situations, there is some sort of legitimacy because they were on the ticket when the president was elected, but they had very different ideas about what to do next compared to their predecessors. Mm-hmm. And if I remember correctly, Truman just sort of was like, haha, fuck you, leftist, when FDR died, and was just like, now I'm gonna do bad Cold War stuff. Here we go. What is a New Deal? I don't know. I forgot about that. I'm too busy with nukes and Stalin. But LBJ literally tried to use like the death of the president in order to like push legislation through. Like the thing about, and this is something I could see like President AOC doing in this situation where it's like, remember when Kamala Harris kind of implied that one time that she might maybe be on board for Medicare for All? Mm-hmm. Well, in the memory of our late girl boss president, we are going to pass the Kamala Harris Memorial Medicare for All bill.
Yeah.
and that could go through. And you know, if you spin it the right way, it might work.
Yeah, it could work. Yeah, that's true. But that's also like hinging on the legitimacy, as you say, of the previous president.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one avenue of doing that.
And some people are filtering in because I did the smart thing of releasing a video on Tristan Won't Shut Up an hour before the stream started.
Well, it's
I had
people are dropping in when they can.
I had 2 videos ready to go, and I had to release one today and one tomorrow, and so I'm like, I didn't know when to. I was like, I can't release it while streaming, and I'm like, well, I can't not release it while streaming too. So here we go. Yeah, there will be a new Step Back video tomorrow, and because everybody loves videos about Nazis and the far right, it's probably going to do. I'm hoping it's going to do well. If not, I've officially do not understand what my audience wants anymore. All right, are you ready for the most important part of our stream? It's the podcast response
legal
zone.
Yes, perfect.
Now, this is not the legal podcast response zone. This is the liberal podcast response zone.
Yes, of course.
So
the legal podcast is a recurring theme, but not an obligatory segment.
Yes. So the liberal podcast guys' new theory on the election is that if you look at the numbers, what dictates whether a Democrat won or whether or not the Republicans turned out, rather than their own policies. Thoughts on that take? He's basically claiming that whether or not a Democrat ran on a progressive policies or not, it's irrelevant to chances of winning.
Yeah, I would actually say that's entirely correct. It sucks, but that's kind of how the American electoral system works.
Yes, that is one of that is. I mean, there's yes asterisk.
Yeah. There obviously, like, if people run on a platform that people like, that will get more people to turn out. But I would say that, like, because America is so gerrymandered to the point of like complete wildness, and because the Senate is super weird, and because even the fact that the Electoral College exists, like, so much of policy is just like, how much do you not want the other people in charge?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something that really dominates American elections.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't have proportional representation, that's really all that happens. Yeah, because like I do think, because AOC talked a little bit about this when they're sort of like disputing about what the strategy of turnout is like, and I do think that most people, at least enough to get into like the numbers that we saw in the 2020 election, don't particularly like look up what their local candidate is running on to like on the issues. Like they're not. I don't know if many people are like, I was gonna go and vote to get rid of Trump, but then I realized that like my congressperson running in Ohio's 69th district is like not per Medicare for all, so I'm gonna not vote. Like that didn't happen. This election was almost entirely a referendum on Donald Trump. What I will say though is that I think what AOC hit on, and what I think Republicans have figured out, is that elections are not about fighting for these like marginal undecided voters, because there's like 20 of them in the whole country and they're all named Ken Bone. And if you think about it, wasn't
bad for Ken Bone. He was just like one undecided voter 4 years ago, and everyone just remembers him.
But he got bonked because he posted horny on Maine.
Did he? What?
Yeah. What happened was very soon after Ken Bone was like discovered, somebody found his Reddit account, and he like horny posted on a whole bunch of like pregnancy porn things, where he referred to them as beautiful submarines. And
what?
Yeah.
This is the wildest shit I've ever heard.
So he got bonked very quickly after his rose to fame.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Beautiful submarines. Okay.
But if you're an undecided voter in 2020, you have to be either super checked out or extraordinarily dumb.
Yeah.
And so, like, in my mind, we don't live in an era. This isn't the 1950s where, like, the two parties are so identical that like a bunch of people are like, I don't know, let me take a look at the stock market, I'm a 1950s man. And now it's about churning out your base and having policies that like get people excited to vote or to vote against what's going on. Democrats haven't figured this out because they still are appealing to the Ken Bones of the world. But the Republicans know that you say shit that you want to do so that you get your people out. And turning out the base with like a strong progressive platform that is obviously extremely popular on both parties, but is important, and that has how you win elections now.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be for the record. The idea if in a representative democracy there could be many different options, and there wouldn't just be the one of the two parties alters its politics to appeal to either the middle or to the left or to their base or whatever. In an ideal world, the people who are left can just vote on people who are left, and there will be parties for people in the center too, and it would actually be representative of what the people want.
Yeah,
but
right.
Because America is stuck in like 250 years ago, well, that's what happens.
Yeah, right now the United States has issues with the fact that the left is not really represented in either political party. There's a small contingent of left-wing politicians in the Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party establishment basically blocks any attempts to do anything with that constituency. So for the most part, people in America have actually pretty left-wing economic positions on things, but because neither party champions those pocketbook issues, they instead divide themselves over having culture wars every six. America's the country that was like, we're gonna make acknowledging that a virus is real a culture war. We're gonna what's it called? There's America is still fighting over abortion rights, and it's still fighting over gay rights and just general human rights and other ways that they found to carve up cultural issues in America to avoid and people identify on those lines. And it's okay, I know, because the thing is, we talked about this when this happened, but you remember the discourse around Bad Podcast Man?
Yeah.
And we talked about, because what's it called? Bad Podcast Man is a shitty transphobic asshole who is also a dumbass, but okay.
We're talking about Joe Rogan, right?
Yes, we're talking about Joe
Just
Rogan.
for clarity for the audience, yeah.
And the thing is, would have felt real good to see a bunch of dumb gym bros who probably have shitty opinions about trans people vote for a presidential candidate that wanted full trans healthcare. Would have been pretty sweet, because that's how you build what's called a constituency or a coalition to win the presidency. But instead, they wanted to, get the endorsement of Henry Kissinger, a man who has no fans and has killed millions of people.
Yeah. Don't they have like people from the Iraq War like on Biden's transition team at this point?
I don't know. I think like the last I saw, they had the one of the co-founders of Quibi. They had executives.
Why Quibi?
I don't know. Executives. What's it called? They had John Kasich, Amy Klobuchar.
Wait, is Kasich really on Biden's transition team? Are you sure?
I don't know. It's one of the names that's just being floated around as like a possible cabinet person.
Oh yeah,
for delivering a loss in Ohio.
Oh my god.
But like the future is going to be so bleak. I also feel like I think Count Chocula is being tapped, and
Sargon of Akkad is also
Sargon
like
of Akkad,
almost confirmed for Secretary of State.
It's just like, okay.
I would actually prefer Count Chocula and Sargon of Akkad over some of the names that are being floated.
Yeah, because at least we know that.
Not a joke.
At least we know that like Sargon is inept at doing even the simplest things. That if there's some people who if he got a job, if he got a cabinet position and just did nothing with it, that would be preferable to like what we have.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So it's awful. I hate everything about this.
This is awful.
Yeah.
But at least it could be worse, but it's still bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we were getting into, this was a discussion about like turnout, and so like yeah, the podcast people are right. Although
yeah,
using
but with an aspect.
Yeah, using it as a way to sidestep talking about policy, and not realizing that turnout and policy are connected, is either a oversight on people who are paid to analyze things, which makes them not great analysts, or is intentional distraction in order to yet again try to find a way to find a mediocre election result and try to blame it on anything except for the fact that nobody likes anything that the Democrats have in their policy bucket. That they're running on like things that everybody hates.
Yeah.
Like in the UK, they call it their manifesto, which I think is adorable and weird. But like the Democrats basically either don't release a manifesto, or their manifesto is just like that meme where they just say everybody hated that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When Star Trek has characters who are supposed to be some sort of trans or intersex, they're always played by people who are either female, or at least assigned female at birth. I've heard some fans argue that's because feminine LGBTQ plus people are perceived as less threatening by cis/straight men. Thoughts on that take?
I mean, maybe. I think this question is like extremely complicated. I think the more straightforward answer, I think, is because a lot of times when they use sort of like characters who are supposed to be like metaphors for transness or intersexness, they often sort of pair them up with being a romantic option for like one of the main characters. And most main characters in shows are male, especially people in Star Trek, especially older Star Trek. The characters who are allowed to fuck are men. Women may have some weird sex with a ghost at some point, or may have like really like romance occasionally, but the people who fuck is Riker. And that's it.
Male writers in Hollywood.
Riker fucks, and that's it.
Male writers in Hollywood are very thoroughly convinced that what WOMs want is to have sex with a ghost.
Yeah, and yes, but I think that producers at that point want to be like, okay, we want to tell a sort of like story like this. We have a male that wants to fuck, but we can't make it seem too gay, so we have to make the romance option.
Yeah.
Appear feminine, but we just say that they have like nuances of both, or they're a trill or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the body has to be feminine so that people who look at the screen for the first time don't think it's gay. Because if there's anything like mainstream TV producers, especially like in the 90s, don't like want to avoid, it is the perception of gay. Today, though, we might get better. Discovery seems to have some interesting things that they might explore.
I mean, two main characters on Discovery are two gay men in a stable, comfortable relationship.
Yeah,
it's a good sign. Yeah, that's one of the things that I think like what they're trying to pan on from like a different area of discussion, because like in like especially like I'm trying to remember where this is, and this feels like something that I learned in like a feminist theory class from somebody who's probably a TERF now, sadly. But there was this idea that like when women break gender norms because their class status is not on top, it's less violently enforced than when men break gender norms. And that like there was this like I don't know the validity of this, but like that it's like easier to be like non-gender conforming or homosexual woman than like a man in the same situation, which is like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know super much about that. I think it's more. I think that comes from the sort of perception that like masculinity is something that is praised, whereas femininity is something that is like demeaned.
Yeah.
In a patriarchal society. So no matter what gender you are, like masculinity is still like seen as sort of like an inherent good, whereas femininity is like at best seen as neutral. Although, there are a bunch of different interpretations of this, and it's all complicated.
I'm not saying I believe that. That's just, I'm digging
I also
up.
think that a part of this might also be that like the male body is seen as sort of the default of what a body is like. So when in Star Trek they want to sort of mess with that a little bit and be like, hey, let's have someone who has like an alternative expression or an alternative like type of identity or whatever, like it's easier to sort of modify the feminine form, because they already see it as sort of like different from the default, which in a patriarchal society is often like a male body. Does that make sense?
I kind of, it's sort of like this it comes from, at least from my intellectual upbringing, it comes from studying LGBTQ plus stuff with feminist theory, which is anybody who knows, like if you don't study queer theory as well, that things can go into turfy territory real fast if you don't do something like that. But yeah, I think that there is some aspect to that, but also the conclusion that kind of comes out of it that like women have an easier time, not gender conforming than men, feels like an thing that would not bear out if you studied like violence against people. And especially like when you think about like not just in like our like white Western culture, but in like other more like patriarchal societies, more like traditionally patriarchal societies, it's like there's a lot of caveats in here that maybe this is like not the greatest blanket statement, but okay.
Yeah, I should also say that like there have been like less than maybe 5 of these happenings in Star Trek, so I think it's more anecdotal than a sort of like pattern. Like there is a pattern forming, obviously, but it's more anecdotal than a pattern. So like putting in these sort of like feminist explanations of a very patriarchal society on the character of Dax from Deep Space Nine, might be a bit like,
and then
might be a bit of a stretch, but
and there's there is the aspect of what you could get away with on network television in the 1990s, like and that happens a lot, and there's like some complex media relationships that a lot of like LGBTQ plus people have, because like they will grab onto whatever media narratives that feature them, and sometimes it's not exactly the most kosher type of really interesting conversation came out about you know what, I'm gonna dig in because it is about a movie that had a really problematic portrayal of trans people, and then there was a discussion about like how this movie, like a lot of trans people were like, oh, I love that movie. It's like, wait, I think the movie was called Sleepaway Camp. I don't know much. I don't watch old horror movies, so I don't really know much about it. But this is
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Instead of going into a conversation about something we don't know about, maybe we can find a question about something we do know. Okay. The other day you were telling me about how almost all professors are adjunct these days. If that's the case, how do you get people to be professors in fields where they could achieve more secure employment by just doing the thing that they're teaching? Like, why be an adjunct accounting professor when you can just be an accountant?
This is too much academia for me, and it's been too long since I was in academia.
I don't know if this is how it's going in Swedenland, but like a lot of like full professor tenure track jobs are disappearing and being replaced with like contract workers who they get paid per course they teach instead of like actual like no sabbaticals, no security in their jobs. Usually they have to teach like way more courses in order to make money. Like and what's happening is now that like older professors are starting to retire, they're now they're not replacing those jobs and instead replacing them with these adjunct jobs. And what I will say is that this isn't happening evenly in all fields. You're talking about the accounting professor thing where like I don't know if you can get a PhD in accounting, but
oh, you can.
Okay. I imagine that is 100% of German PhDs are in that or engineering. Okay. So so the thing is like it depends on the field. Like there are still areas where it's easier to manage these jobs, to manage to get like real jobs, like jobs where a lot of money is still put into it. But even so, what we're finding in like say like the natural sciences, for example, especially biomedical research, which is probably the most well-funded of any department in any university, because they get like, they get grants for millions of dollars because they're trying to cure cancer or something. So in those situations, what we're seeing is a drift towards fewer and fewer tenure-track professors dealing with more and more money or like more and more cases. But there's still like, because the departments do like clawbacks and stuff like that on grants, and it's really sketchy and shitty. But those departments tend to have more money to play with, and they do tend to hire more professors. When like if you go to like media studies or history, that's where you're starting to see like, oh wow, the amount of full professors is getting smaller every few years, and more adjunct people are going through. And so it has to do with like market incentives and value to capitalism and such. So maybe the Department of Accounting does still make it easier to have fewer and fewer professors. But I mean, there are some people who don't want to be accountants. They really just want to be professors.
Yeah. I feel like in every field there are people who prefer like talking about the field rather than doing it. I feel like that's why people become history professors, so they can just talk about ancient Greece over and over again. If that's their favorite subject.
It's true.
That's why my professors are professors. I feel like.
Yeah, once you get into there's something attractive about academia, where it feels like a warm soup, that it's not like the real world, and if you were to ever get out, you realize that it's like cruel and results based, and you can't just go out for drinks at 11 a.m. on Friday and just drink the rest of the afternoon because nobody ever plans anything for Friday. That life doesn't exist when you have to get a real job, and so a lot of people stay in it because it's a nicer, kinder world to be in if you can be in it.
Yeah, that's why we became YouTubers, so we can still do that.
Yeah, it's like a halfway version.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's anything that got me acclimated to sort of the YouTuber lifestyle, is the fact that I lived as a grad student where you get paid very little money. And I just know how to live on an amount of money that other people my age would think is like absolutely meager. And to work more hours than a person would consider normal for that small amount of money.
Yeah, we are our jobs are maybe not the most lucrative. People think YouTubing is like the most lucrative thing in the world, and like
it can be, but
it can be for like 1% if you're very lucky.
Yeah, because like
most of us are scraping by.
If you can pull in like if you can pull in like, I don't know, if you're like a Paul brother or something like that, then yeah. But we are not Paul brothers.
We're not. We're not gonna go look for corpses in the woods.
Yeah, I was going to say I have filmed 0 corpses. Okay. The next one is a little spicy and has more to do with stuff going on in Europe. Tristan, what do you think about making caricatures of Muhammad? I know some people who do it are Islamophobes, but it seems like others, for example, Charlie Hebdo, like to caricature everyone.
This is a complicated subject in Europe.
It is very complicated. I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing to preface the conversation, that drawing a religious figure should not be a death sentence. That should be, and that people who are killing people over drawings are not good people.
Yes.
That being firmly established, that murder is bad and you shouldn't do it for any reason, let alone because somebody drew something that you consider blasphemous. It's still pretty shitty to if you just take a little bit of cultural understanding of this religion and know that they have like a very, very big emphasis on not depicting these people. You notice that in all of the Middle East, their entire art style has been completely built around the idea that graven images are bad and that you shouldn't depict holy figures in art. That's why, like, the entire fancy Arabic calligraphy. That's why their famous churches are covered in like these beautiful geometric designs, and it's all based on this. So maybe if you see just how much of a cultural emphasis they have on not drawing these figures, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you're a bit of a prick for doing it.
Yeah. Again, you don't deserve death or like threats or any sort of violence, but
yeah,
like it doesn't cost anything not to.
Yeah. And so, like, for example, like when we're talking about Charlie Hebdo, which, like, yeah, it was when that shooting happened, like, God, was that like almost 10 years ago now? Like, that should not have happened. That is what's it called? That was an act of terrorism. Yeah. But outside of the context of that, just knowing that there's this religion that is not being treated the greatest in your country, that they're being, like, you know, marginalized and depicted as like subhuman people, and that their religion has a strong emphasis on not depicting their holy figures in drawings. If your first instinct is then to go, hey, I really want to punch down at these guys, let's do explicitly what their religion hates for the lulz. That's a dick thing to do.
Yeah.
And I know that there are now people who are drawing Muhammad just for the sake of pissing off a religion. It would be like, it's sort of like, trying to think of another good example. Because like there isn't really, I'm trying to think of another religion that has like sort of like really sensitive things like this, but like I don't know. How is this going in Europe? How is this conversation going in Europe? I'm scared to ask.
It's a conversation where it's very much like it's probably best to just not talk about it that much. Like, if we just don't talk about it that much, like, we're all fine. Like, we don't want to have that conversation, because whenever we have the conversation, we have people. Yeah, then we have a lot of people who are like, oh, my contribution to this conversation is going to be to like actively antagonize as many Muslims as I can, because the person who is doing it is like very Islamophobic. And that's not really productive to the conversation. So I think I think most people, when they like lead on it, are thinking about like either we like I think most people land on the fence of like free speech, yes, murder bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that's it.
When there's a few more things
And
that probably should be mentioned. Yeah, it's...
Nope, don't need to. Not in Europe. Shut the fuck up. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. It's fine.
Like, okay, so like the thing is with Charlie Hebdo, like I will say, as a French adjacent person, that like there is like a cultural thing in France that is specifically about hating religion, because like they would do like, what's it called? Like I imagine Charlie Hebdo, I think, has also like depicted the Pope doing a bunch of fucked up shit too, and like this is like what French people do. But I think that what they don't understand is that like doing that about like the dominant religion in a country, and doing that about like a ethnic minority that is actively like being treated like second class citizens in your country, have different context behind them, and that's important to mention. Like pissing off the Pope in a country that is still like 70-80% Catholic or whatever is a bit different than antagonizing a religion that is primarily followed by people who are of a immigrant group that are experiencing high levels of poverty and ostracization,
and that has historically been like subjugated by the country that you're currently in.
Yeah, any country that actively had colonies in the Middle East should probably not be like actively shitting on Islam in their popular media. I'm not saying that like the police should show up. It's just more of like a, hey, this would be the non-prick thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple super chats. Thank you, Zane Rossler, for the $2 super chat. Can't wait for the militia video. Well, soon. Tomorrow is when the video comes out, so check Step Back History tomorrow at 11 a.m. And if the video does well, I have like several more that I want to make, so please share it wide. And the next one, thank you, Matt Lipton, for the $5 super chat. And it says, related to the subject, where's the line between making fun of everyone and just punching down while also mocking some politicians?
I mean, that's the hard part, isn't it? I just feel like you can make fun of everyone, but you just need to be like, why are you doing that, and for what purpose, and how are you doing it, and like what context are you taking into it? And I think for example, like I think it's probably fine to depict Muhammad. I don't think there's anything like inherently moral wrong in doing so. But you got but there are a lot of people who do it specifically in order to antagonize and to be Islamophobic. And there's a very different. That's a different thing from like depicting Muhammad like at all to just being an asshole about it. Like those are two very different things. Mm-hmm. So I think there is a line, and I think it is easy to sort of like make a distinction of where you are, but I think that has to do with a lot of like. I think that has to do with like the context that you bring into that sort of distinction. Like, are you like if because everything that we're doing doesn't exist in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. So we can. I mean, it also depends on like the effects that it has, right? So it's not just. I don't know. It's a complicated issue. I'm rambling a little bit.
Yeah, and just knowing, like, I think like one of the important things specifically on Muhammad, but actually this applies to a lot of the important figures in early Islam, that like it's just important specifically in their religion that like depictions of these people are bad, are not things that should happen. And so there's a difference between like, you know, drawing a religious figure from like Christianity because like they draw them all the fucking time, and and drawing a Islamic religious figure because of the different like sort of ways that it's important. It's about having empathy for people, and there are ways to criticize, like, I don't know about Islam itself, but like criticizing like some of the like brutal things that have been done in the name of Islam by a small minority of people. That is one thing, but but then like extending it to like, oh, this is the second largest religion on earth, and is in the West is believed by a lot of people who are not being treated super great, and it's like maybe there's a point when your effectual political commentary is just you being bigoted, and it's like, oh geez.
Yeah.
We got Zane Rossler. We got another super chat from Zane Rossler. Thank you very much. And it's for you. And the question is, how is Biden's win being received in Sweden, in Svithjod?
In Svithjod. With a sigh of relief. Like, I feel like most people are pretty happy about it. In the sense of, like...
In Upper Denmark.
No! How dare you! But yeah, so with the sigh of relief, I think that most people are just happy that Trump isn't going to do it or anything. I think most people are still like just waiting for like Biden being sworn in, because Trump is still president, so there hasn't been this like massive thing. Like Swedish media hasn't really followed the election the same way that like American media has. That's something that like I've been following the election, but that's just because I'm hooked onto the matrix of American cultural hegemony. But I also think that like Swedes in general don't care that much. They just care about like, oh, Trump lost, nice, and that's basically it.
They don't think too much about like the healthcare stuff or sort of like attempt to steal the elections going on.
What?
What's it called? Like they're not too like concerned about the minutia, but they just know Trump lost. Hey, that's good.
Yeah, like pretty much. That's how most people are doing it.
In international media, it's kind of true that like we're gonna hear a lot less about America. Trump was like a big ratings gain, so like a lot of the international media organizations are going to be less like Trump did a thing today again.
Yeah. Maybe hopefully things will like be calmer. Obviously Biden is still gonna do like a lot of bad and evil shit, but at least he won't like tweet every single day.
Maybe so maybe nice. Like when he just gets like inaugurated, he's just like, you know what, secret shit poster. I was playing the long game.
Oh no. He's the one who makes all the Biden memes.
Yeah. Now it would kind of rule to have a shit poster become president at some point, but I don't know if America's ready for that yet. All right, do you think it's worth to try and change the minds of COVID skeptics and people opposed to wearing masks? I tried to on Instagram this weekend, and holy fuck is it infuriating, but it also feels wrong to just let them spout their BS unchallenged.
I think, isn't that the thing when we're talking about like fascists too? Like trying to convert COVID skeptics or trying to convert climate change denialists it's completely worthless. You're never going to succeed. You won't. It doesn't happen. But you don't leave it unchallenged. Like you should challenge it, because people who look onto the conversation will then be like, oh, cool, someone's at least like arguing against it. Because if they just spout things unchallenged, there will be people who are like within their sort of social media bubble that see that being unchallenged, and being like, okay, well, cool, no one's objecting to this. This is what people believe, and it becomes normalized. So just keep doing it so it doesn't spread, but you're not gonna like that's not really gonna convert anyone, in my thought.
Yeah. It's there's that whole line that you can't reason somebody out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. And if anything, there's actually studies that show that like that correcting somebody with facts and logic actually might make them double down on an incorrect belief more so than if you agreed with them, which is so weird. It just shows how strange our brains are.
I'm gonna lower my volume a little bit.
But I think that it has a lot to do with like where you are. Like you have to making media that talks about why like COVID is real and masks are important is good. Fighting in the comments is going to get you nowhere, though.
Yeah.
I would say. I do have something to kind of bring into this conversation. Have you heard about this like viral Twitter thread by this like extremely depressing South Dakota nurse?
Is it the one who's like asking Trump for aid?
I don't think she's asking Trump for aid, but the way that the story's going is like this is like her like day off, like the beginning of her weekend or whatever. And she was just reflecting on like the thing that's making her like the most terrified, and that is how in South Dakota, which is like a very conservative state, she's dealing with people who are like denying that they have COVID, even to the point where like they're about to go onto a ventilator and they're still like saying you don't need to be wearing a mask and like this disease isn't real.
Yeah.
And like apparently
like, as they're dying of COVID.
Yeah, and like it's caused like situations where there's people who are literally like if they like the nurse is like you should probably be FaceTiming your family right now, like you don't have a long time, and they're like, no, I'm gonna get better, I feel great, and like they're like looking and they're like on 100% oxygen and their blood oxygen level is like down to like 75%, and it's like you don't have very long.
Yeah.
And that people are getting mad at the nurses because they're wearing masks and they're wearing PPE while working with them, while they're obviously not sick. They're just like, they just have pneumonia or they just like have the flu or something like that. And it's like, meanwhile, like they're dying of COVID in this thing. Like, so like they're denying this all the way up to the end. And it's like, that's really, really tragic.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard about that. That's really rough. I think, but I think that because like COVID has become such a culture war, especially like in America, just people just don't want to accept it, and like as you said earlier, with like when people are faced with evidence that contradicts their own beliefs, the cognitive dissonance just makes them double down on the wrong beliefs. I even to the point of death, I guess, which is horrifying.
Well, it's so that these people are dying. First of all, when you're in a hospital, that's like you're already in bad straits. But like when like the nurse is saying like you should be spending your last minute or your last like hours like talking to your family or something, and you're just refusing, like you're gonna die, and you're not gonna like. Just because you're in denial, you're not going to say goodbye to your kids and like all this stuff. And it's like, God, that's so bleak.
Yeah.
Is the gay space communist future you find a guy in Okay. It's the gay space communist future. And you find a guy in suspended animation. You thaw him out and find he's a 21st century accountant. What, if anything, can he use his skill set in a world without money? Oh man,
data management.
Yeah,
so many things. There's so many things people need to like account for. That's just not money.
Yeah, I was just thinking, hey, touring news. Thank you for rating with a party 59. Much appreciated. Hello, everybody. I'm Tristan. This is Mia, and we're talking about bleak and goofy shit. You know what this does remind me of, though? Kelly and I are watching through Star Trek TNG right now. And we just came across the episode where they unthaw a bunch of people from the 21st century, and there's like 3 people. One of them is where like these are probably the character notes. Woman. That's the character note. Woman
has children. That's all she cares about.
Yeah. Then there's rich man, money, and Southern guy. Yeah. Where he's like trying to get like hush puppies out of the replicator, and like casually sexually harassing women and stuff. But like the one part is like, it's the 24th century. How is everything is perfect. Where is my money? I need to call, like, I'm Space Karen, and I need to go talk to the manager of this ship so that I can call my Swiss bank accounts. And it's like, I swear to God, I think the Bonitis guy was based on this guy. It was inspired by this episode. You know the episode I speak of, yes?
I know exactly the episode you speak of, yes.
Where?
I mean, the musician guy, like, he's fine with it, just like, nice.
Can I get a guitar?
Cool. Yeah, like, and I have a guitar. Cool. I can get drunk again. I can die of liver failure again.
The what's it called? The replicator makes martinis. Yeah, but like the one guy's just like he like just can't get like, hey, it's the future. Where's my money? I'm going to be rich. But he said for some reason this just came through when I was like seeing this, and I was like, yes. But I just remembered like when they were like, what is this character? It's like woman character. Well, what's her? What do we want to say about her? Well,
family.
Woman.
That's it.
She does woman things. What's her job? I don't know. What is woman job? Homemaker.
Yeah, it is a very it's a very basic episode for the ideas that they tried to present.
Yeah, they did. You could tell they did not do a ton of work to try and flesh out those characters.
You know, it was all that's a pretty early track, isn't it? Isn't that like season 1, season 2?
I think it's like early season 2.
Yeah.
Where in the world is this guest from? Where are you from?
I'm from Sweden. I'm also from youtube.com/shesaysmiamulder if you want to check out my content and my videos.
There you go.
I'm also a YouTuber. They're pretty good.
You are pretty good. In 1701, an English explorer supposedly encountered a Native American tribe with some European-seeming features, i.e. blue eyes. Oh, man. Of course, Europeans, the monopoly on blue eyes.
People with blue eyes.
And there's a hypothesis that this is because they absorbed the survivors of the Roanoke colony a century earlier.
Yeah.
Do you buy that?
I've heard of it.
Would Native American... Do you buy that New England Native Americans would do that? Yes, it actually did happen many times.
Happen all the time.
Just let a group of extremely alien people join their tribe. Yes. This is one important thing about indigenous nation membership that people don't get, that white people don't get because it's not like the way that they work, which is that in indigenous societies, kinship is a decision, that you can choose to become related to somebody, or that and there is like a ritual involved in all these kinds of things, and you can become like kind of spiritually part of someone's family. And in some of those very, very early colonial days, there were Europeans who had some like there's colonies that just didn't work because they were like, how do I grow food, and then they couldn't make it happen. They're like, we planted wheat and it didn't work because it gets too cold here.
Now what? Guess I die.
But then some of them escaped, and some of them were like adopted into these indigenous cultures. Now there are common early American narratives that these were people who were kidnapped, and there's a few people who are like, I was kidnapped and I escaped from their capture. But like, there's plenty of evidence that there were a bunch of people who went to these societies, joined them, and were just like happy, like they just like lived life. They just were vibing with these people. And just like live their lives, especially in like colonies that collapsed. Whether that was Roanoke specifically, which I think is like, people think this is probably the most common explanation, is that the Roanoke people, the survivors anyway, did somewhat.
Yeah, because isn't the island that the tribe is on called Roanoke or something like that? Yeah. Because the island of the colony isn't Roanoke. Roanoke is just something that like that they wrote on the tree of the colony, which was somewhere else.
Oh no, they wrote Croatoan.
Croatoan, yeah, of course, yeah, Croatoan. So they went to Croatoan, and isn't that the sort of like the tribe of the place? It's just called Croatoan, and no one went there for like 80 years after the colony collapsed.
I think we're not sure on that. There's still some like question marks on it, but because unfortunately, the nations that lived in like a lot of those like coastal societies on the east coast of the U.S. they're completely gone. Like there's no, they don't have any survivors that have left, so it's harder to tell on some of these things. Someone just said, hi, I'm gay, and I say, hi, gay, I'm dad. Okay, the court has made their decision, now let them enforce it. Should any future progressive presidents take that attitude to the court if they can't manage to pack it? No, fuck the court.
No, fuck the court.
Anti-court action.
Anti-court action.
Yeah. No justice, no gavel. Question for Mia. What did Swedes think about Southern European countries protesting against austerity in the early 2010s? Was there solidarity or animosity? Asking because in Germany it was pretty hostile.
Yeah, it was pretty hostile here too. Very similar to what Germany had. In the sense of like these Southern European countries can't handle their economies. They can't do their shit. Very superior attitude to.
All they do is siesta, make retirement program, drink olive oil, and lie.
That's all they do. And yeah, that was basically the attitude that a lot of Swedes had.
Just all the Protestants were like, these people are having fun and I don't like it. And now they're like, look, it's because they had fun. That's why they're ruined. I have evidence now.
That's why we shouldn't have fun either.
Yeah. Fucking Northern Europeans hating fun. Anti-fun action. Okay. Did Trump get TikTok banned? I remember people talking about that, but lost track of it. You know what's, I have an answer to that, and it's fucking hilarious. The answer to that question is TikTok should have been banned about 2 weeks ago, but do you know who also forgot about the TikTok ban? Donald Trump. And so, like, the people at TikTok there's an article about this I read, that the people at TikTok are like, yeah, we were supposed to have been taken off all of the stores, like, 2 weeks ago, but the date came and went, and Trump kind of just forgot about it, and no one's come to them saying we need to shut down. So,
but haven't they been, like, bought, like, by American company?
There's been offers, but nothing has been.
They haven't been done, so it just came and went. Really, just full ass.
And so, like, there's like evidence that, like, just like Trump might have just forgotten about TikTok.
Okay.
And like it was like a thing. Like the ban was only being pushed by like the sheer force of will of Trump just being mad that teens were making fun of him on TikTok.
Yeah, and then I guess the election like took precedent.
Yeah. The election did take precedent. Okay. This does actually raise an interesting question. Has social media in general had a positive or negative impact on the world?
Social media? I don't know. I'm gonna say no. Explain your answer.
Has it had a positive or negative impact on the world? Yes, it has. What I would say...
yes, that's a good point. I would say negative.
I would say... see, there's a couple things. I made a video about this. I talked about it a little bit. So I will say, social media has done a bunch of things. One of the number one things that it has done that we all know is that it has basically opened the floodgates of disinformation, misinformation, conspiracy theories. Because what happened is, by creating social media, you have created vast distribution with no gatekeepers. That means that if you, like, what's it called? The fact that, like, there's queer content on the internet for children, in, like, you know, voices that have been silenced because they weren't profitable enough have been able to speak in a way that they've never been able before. Because now anybody can have a voice and anybody can have a platform. The problem is that anybody can have a voice and anybody can have a platform. And for all of the new voices and amplification of things that would have been completely... Like, imagine what our view of the election would have been like if we had only seen what CNN and MSNBC were saying about it, as an example.
It's a very good point.
The problem is there's no gatekeepers whatsoever, and so dangerous conspiracy theories and active state disinformation campaigns have been able to run rampant. So in my mind, it hasn't so much like ruined the world or saved the world as much as it has changed the world, and we have a new sort of sea we have to learn how to navigate. And at this point, the main problem is that we haven't really learned how to navigate it yet, because we have to learn how to be a lot more critical of the things that we read and see and watch, and we haven't really done that because learning about how to critically assess media is, first of all, hard, and second of all, not a high priority in an education system that's increasingly trying to teach you how to I don't know, what do schools teach you these days? How to accept orders and be ranked.
Yeah. How to be a productive member of society.
Yeah.
How to be a drone.
Precisely. All right, next up we got next question.
That's an amazing answer, by the way. Can I just say that was an amazing answer?
Thank you. It's something that's been on the top, been on my something I've been bumbling my head about for a while now, because I found it way too easy to say that it's 100% good or 100% bad.
It's a nuanced beast.
Yeah, media history was also a big part of my dissertation work that I was doing, so I've studied a lot about the development of media technology and such.
Interesting.
So because something kind of like this happened when cable happened, because when cable became a thing in the 80s, people were like, wait a minute, you're gonna have a TV channel that's news all day long? What are you gonna fill it with?
Yeah.
What is this cable news network going to do all day? Yeah, communication media it's a thing. Our society is all there was a time when people were like, well, what are we going to do if anybody can print a book on their Gutenberg press?
Yeah. I guess social media is its own beast rather than the internet itself, right? Because I feel like the internet has been around in some form or another, publicly since the late 90s. It's been around. But social media is in full force, maybe in the last decade.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the internet has been if the internet is the Gutenberg Bible, social media is your home printer.
Yeah, or sort of what's it called, Web 2.0 world, where there's this change where the amount of websites that people went to on average started to go way down, and we started to only funnel all of our content through a few mass aggregators, which is sort of where we are now. We got another thing. You'd like this, Tristan, but remember my school agenda in grade 3 or 4 quoting that independent thought alarm joke from The Simpsons unironically. Oh boy.
My God.
2 independent thought alarms in one day. Willie, remove all the colored chalk from the classroom. I don't know how Simpsons.
I don't remember that episode.
Simpsons pilled are you?
How Simpsons?
How Simpsons pilled are you?
I'm not that Simpsons pilled, unfortunately.
Okay.
I had, I'm gonna say a spicy trans word. I'm gonna say a slur in the upcoming sentence, so everyone just be prepared for that. I just remember, a few years ago, I decided to rewatch The Simpsons from from the start, when it was good-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember one day reaching an episode where Nelson says, "Ha ha, the principal's a tranny," and I already had a bad day, so it was just ugh.
That's not good.
Well, okay. And then I just stopped. If I had a better day, I would probably it's a product of the times, but at the same time, it's just ugh. Oy.
Sometimes it's hard to watch something that's more than 10 years old.
Yo.
For this specific reason. Okay.
It's a product, but again, it's a product of the times. Most of the old Simpsons is pretty good, but sometimes there slips some things through, which is just oof.
Yeah. Sorry you had to deal with that. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Matt Lipton. So the next question we got here is, have you ever seen the YouTube channel Unlearn Economics? They're an economist/economy student who critiques breadtube economics from a socialist perspective to help them make more convincing and better arguments for anti-capitalist models. Really enjoyed their philosophy tube video.
I have seen some of this. I don't know what it is. I also feel that I think I don't know the content, so I can't say for sure how everything is. But I also feel like making an entire channel based on criticizing breadtube from an economic point of view, but also from I don't know. That seems entirely too niche, and I'm not sure how productive it is. yeah, I'm not sure that most of BreadTube knows economy that well. Like, but at the same time, like, I don't know, that might not be the best productive.
I mean, so I did watch one video, which was the response to Ollie's video on the housing crisis, which like in some ways it made some valid points. In some ways, I'm like, oh, you're an undergrad, because like there's like this kind of like. It has it while he's like doing like the video has some solid stuff to sort of like draw more upon what's going on. There is sort of still the economist like the market is just assumed type thinking, where like because like what the thing is Ollie's unstated thing about that video is that hey, looks like marketizing things is bad. Maybe we shouldn't have capitalism and such, but then he changed the parameters of the discussion to just be about like let's just get rid of commodifying homes in our current society. And yeah, he explained about how if you did that, it would certainly fuck up a bunch of people's lives and it would make a lot of problems in a capitalist society. And it's like, yes, it's just like the meme of the blonde man. Yes, correct.
Yes. God, it's just such a bad meme, but I love it so much.
I love that it is probably gone from the fastest of like alt-right meme turned into like left shitposting meme. Like I think it happened within 6 hours of it being made.
Yes, people just immediately took it, just be like, yes. Plus,
I love Bernie. Yes.
I just remember. I don't know where I saw it. Maybe probably on Twitter. I remember some leftist was talking about with some like free speech advocate and the person was like, so you don't like so do you think we shouldn't have free speech if you think we should have like hate speech protection laws? So that's an undermining of free speech, and they were just like yes. And they couldn't respond to that because what do you say?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah, it's like it works in so many situations, and now no one remembers that it's like I think it started as like a no sex trad wife type meme or something that nobody remembers, and I love it for that. Okay.
Remember the trad wife meme? That was something wild.
It's like, do you promise to not have? Like I love the conservatives are the new punk rock, and then they're like, oh, I'm mad that people are sexing before marriage. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot you're all fucking like grandpas and baby bodies.
Yeah, it's the new punk. It's the new resistance, though.
Oh boy. I can't wait to see what the right-wing hashtag resistance, or sorry, the more right-wing hashtag resistance is going to be. Okay. The other day I asked you if TV shows should address COVID, and you said it depends if it's done well or not. Even if it's done well, don't you think it could be depressing and triggering for people? Like, no matter how good they are, you wouldn't want to show war films on movie night on a military base in an active conflict zone. I imagine that they do that because...
They do that all the time.
Yeah, like, what's it called? If there is any constituency that loves war movies, it's probably soldiers.
Yes.
And I do think that in some ways, this is why I said it had to be done well, that if a TV show decided to tackle COVID stuff in the show, that it should have something interesting to say. Like, I could see an episode of a TV show talking about COVID and talking about it in the way of like trying to capture that kind of weird feeling of like solidarity, and we're going to get through this together, that sort of channeled the very early COVID days, like the March COVID days, or about like the resiliency of the human spirit, or about like why wearing masks is good, or why sowing misinformation from the president is bad, or there's like all sorts of like things that you could tell a story that is talking about COVID in a TV show. Because I think this was like a medical drama that did a COVID episode.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
They're recording shows this year?
I know that's a weird one, but
That's all I'm thinking. That's all I'm thinking about.
but I do think that you could talk, like, what's it called? Talking about the moment we're in through stories is good, and you could do some good stuff. Yeah, it might be depressing, but I feel like there are ways you could tell the story that are not just designed to make you feel bad about the current situation.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of media about this year, just generally, and as you say, in like a sort of productive way for the viewer.
And the thing too is we kind of need it, because in our current day and age, if there's anything that I'm learning, because my brain entirely consists on studying things in terms of like narratives and cultural understandings of things and media, because I don't know, that's how my Tristan brain works. That one of the reasons why COVID feels so traumatizing and feels so hard to figure out what to do is because we've never had a cultural narrative about pandemics before. Pandemic cinema, pandemic media has always featured around like kind of like medical dramas and how, like, you know, they wrap it up in a few months. But like the idea of like civic like virtue during a pandemic of like wearing a mask when you go to get your latte and like, you know, just staying 6 feet away from people is not a thing that we've learned to associate with it. And so we don't really know, we don't really have like unfortunately we absorb so many new experiences through media. We don't have a media depiction of what we should be doing in such a situation, because a lot of our pandemic media is, again, like it's just sort of reskinned disaster narratives.
Yeah. Or it's old in the sense of like from like very old pandemics from like the Spanish flu, for example. And even that sort of media that hasn't really like translated well into the modern day, because I don't know, I definitely feel like a lot of people in the modern day sort of associate the modern day specifically with like lack of deadly diseases and lack of pandemics, and we fixed things because we had antibiotics. Like I think in the cultural consciousness, the idea of a pandemic is something that belongs to like the far past, not something that happens like today. So and when media in the future is probably going to tackle pandemics like a little bit better, hopefully.
Well, when it has been done in the past, like I remember movies like The Hot Zone from the 1990s, or there is a movie that like The Hot Zone was, or like The Andromeda Strain, or like things like that like depict the sort of drama as a race to make a cure. And so we're all thinking like, oh, okay, we're going to batten down until the cure comes in 6 to 8 weeks, and then it'll be good. We'll get through it. But like, we never had like what an actual pandemic is like. And somebody just pointed out like, was there no Spanish flu literature? And here's the weird thing. There really wasn't. And this is sort of like a really weird part about studying the Spanish flu that I've learned because I did a Spanish flu video, which was the Spanish flu was this thing that happened. Then for some reason our culture decided to forget that it happened. And we spent,
like no one wanted to remember it.
Yeah, there's like this cultural amnesia, and it wasn't until like not a pandemic, but until the swine flu epidemic that happened in 2009 happened, that historians actually were like, oh wait, wasn't there like a pandemic in 1918? And then like people started to like look back into it and actually started to kind of study again, because like people didn't write a lot of pandemic novels. There wasn't like a big pandemic movie or anything like that, which was really weird. The only, and what's all, and it shows, and it also sort of hurts our historical understanding of things a lot. Like, for example, you sent a meme to me today that kind of explains it a lot. We don't really have you ever notice that our stories about how World War I ended always seems to be kind of just like fuzzy? Like it's like, oh, like the Germans did an offensive and it went bad, and then there was a revolution all of a sudden, and then war over.
Yeah.
When it's
I mean, the narrative that I always heard was like, People were starving.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. The blockade made it so they starved, and that was it. All
Yeah.
of Europe just starved and surrendered.
Yeah, and so, but there's like no depiction that would have made a lot of sense because, like, the thing is, if you look at like late World War One stuff, both of the countries seemed like they were ready to fight well into 1919, and then something happened is sometime in the summer to fall of 1918 that made everybody really want to stop the war. And all the stories are just like, oh, there was, there was a revolt, or there was like a, the offensive didn't go well, so all of a sudden and it's like, nobody stopped to think, virus. Like, because like this pandemic would go on to kill more people than who died in World War One, the worst war ever at that point.
Mm.
Because in my mind, and this is me, analyzing this through Tristan brain, so don't take it with a grain of salt, or take it with how much you respect anything I say. Is that as we're learning with our pandemic now, it's kind of hard to process narratively, like it's hard to integrate something like a pandemic into your narrative self-concept.
Yeah.
And
especially like in a world where we can't keep up with it every single day like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a world before the internet.
Yeah.
Where and you get your news from like the newspaper.
Yeah. And there was censorships on it and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
But so like there's hard to form a chain of causality, so it's hard for us to tell a story about a pandemic. It's sort of like pandemics sort of go against the ways that humans sort of organize memories. And so this is why I said to my wife that even though this pandemic is probably more significant than 9/11 as far as like how it affected the world in our lifetimes, that 30 years from now, we're probably going to remember 9/11 because it was dramatic and, people and narratives and characters. We're going to remember that more than we remembered this period. And when things attempt to get back to normal, I think you'll actually be surprised how quickly we're going to kind of forget the COVID times.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I was hogging the mic.
No. You had you said this more, and I said the things that I needed to say.
Okay.
And you were also right.
Somebody asked, they tell you this at Quantico. Quantico's where they train FBI agents.
Yeah.
Okay. I asked Ben Burgess about your coup worries during his last live stream. He said he doesn't think Trump is brave enough to do a coup because if he fails, there's something that could genuinely land him in jail. Thoughts on that take?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Trump will go through with a coup if it's not a sure thing. That's for sure. And
but I also think that Trump is going to like exhaust every single option that he has, so that he can make sure that it is a sure thing, just in case.
Yeah.
But I think America is too much of a like Byzantine clusterfuck for him to be able to do that before January, and before he will like be forced to either take action or to concede.
Yeah. Yeah, this I still like there are still chains of events that could happen that could lead to it happening. But I think the fact that Trump overplayed his hand. I think he signaled what he was going to do too early, and it blew up in his face, and now he's trying to salvage his coup attempt, and it's not working. Because his main thing is that he wanted to have these lawsuits come up in front of the Supreme Court, but the election wasn't close enough for that. And
yeah, it's a lot of the lawsuits are just like dying and way before they even reach the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so like my thoughts is like now if there's going to be a coup, it's going to be a it's not going to be like the 2000 coup. It's going to be like a different type of coup. But also all the media just reported on the fact that he changed the heads of all of his military people. And like, I don't know, I think like he could think things like the thing is Trump assumes that everyone likes him. and he's learning very quickly that nobody's putting their life on the line to save Trump. Yeah.
Didn't he also explore, though, potentially like reaching out to faithless electors?
Yeah, that could still happen.
I'm not sure. Yeah, when are the electors actually voting? Because I will feel more comfortable after that.
It's in December.
Damn, too long.
Yeah, it's in a few weeks.
Yeah, because when that happens, then it will actually be official. The government of America has declared Joe Biden to be the successor.
Yeah, and it goes
right
through,
now. It's just
it goes through Congress too. The House has to vote on who won, and then the Senate has to ratify it. And so there's a bunch of weird situations where like there's a lot of log jams in the presidential selection process that he could fuck with. But, like, these are things that have never been fucked with before, and anything he does is, like, going to set off sirens everywhere. Not to... Oh, no. Mia froze.
Oh,
it got too cold. Oh, no, you're good. You're good. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh,
You're only frozen for a few seconds.
Oh, my God. I was so terrified.
The internet pipes are getting too cold up there.
Daniel Flamino said the CIA got me.
The CIA. Yourmonger ate your internet cables.
Oh my God.
Is that the right way to say that? Yourmonger? I don't know.
Are you talking about the big old snake?
Yeah.
That's Jormungandr.
There we go.
I might not have the best pronunciation of that because it's Old Norse, which is like 1,000 years ago. But I think it's Jormungandr.
Question for Mia: is Grindr as bad in Sweden as it is here in America?
Oh yeah. I haven't used that in years, but what I remember, yeah.
Man, I started like what's it called? Tinder started becoming a thing around the time I met Kelly, so I used it for one evening, and after like 6 hours or something like that, the only people who swiped right were all spam accounts, and I was like, this is literally just a spam channel. It's just where people. Well, what's it called? You know, I'm not exactly Tinder material, so. It was a silly thing to do, and I know that Grindr's a different app.
It's also full of trash. It's trash. All dating apps are really trash when you think about it.
I mean, I met Kelly through OkCupid, so that worked.
Not an app. It's a website.
That is true.
My point still stands.
Yeah. All right. Is it dishonest to call yourself a prison abolitionist if you're like, okay, locking up people like Ted Bundy who are constantly violent for no good reason? I also asked Ben Burgess about his take on prison abolition, and that's what he said. Man, now I'm getting roasted by Ben Burgess. This is now the Ben Burgess response zone.
Oh my God.
I swear, I think 255 is like this secret like shit disturber who just like, this person said this, your response, so that they can write it down and then go to the other person and be like, this person
and
thinks
go back. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, oh shit.
Drama. We love it.
Okay, so I do consider myself a prison abolitionist, and I do think that there is a difference between having prisons as like a thing, like right now prison is just the default thing we do to people who do bad things.
Yeah.
To me, if there is such thing as a prison, it would be like for people who are severe, like basically having some sort of or have severe social problems that they are literally a threat to themselves and others. Like to say, and I wouldn't consider it like a penitentiary or like a punishment type situation as much as it is like a long-term rehab facility.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just semantics, and maybe I just love prisons because I want to get rid of almost all of them. Like,
yeah, I think like talking about like, it feels like such a gotcha when people talk about like, oh, you want like the vast majority of prisoners to not be in basically isolation torture, you must want serial killers to be free and go around to do that. Like it's such a weird gotcha thing where it's like, no, obviously that's not how it works.
There are so
Like,
few like Ted Bundys and Anders Breiviks out there that like
we don't need the whole prison industrial complex to make sure that 5 terrorists are like put in a place where they can like not kill people.
Yeah. There's a really great term that says rare cases make for bad policy, which is that you probably shouldn't base your policy on how to run things based on small, very rare cases that are very like public and bad.
Yeah, exactly.
The next question we got here is, why are Fox News actually being responsible? Why aren't they going along with Trump's BS claims about the election?
Because I think there's a line even for Fox News. Even for Fox News, there is a line where they can't be like treasonous.
Yeah, I do think that Rupert Murdoch has a good political instinct, and he knows the way the winds are going. I actually would not be above thinking that Fox could pull conspiracy shit and like do that kind of stuff. I just think they know that that's not a winning strategy, and just unlike OAN and like other weird news organizations, they are actually they actually still want to be considered and taken seriously. They still want to hang on to some bastion of being a legitimate news source and not just a propaganda outlet. So my guess is that they eventually caved in. But even then, not universally, because Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity are still Fox News daily show people, and they still go on about conspiracy theories. So it's really just like their news department, and they're still doing this stuff.
I think maybe they can see Trump just going full weird and just taking the weird people with him. And I think that they want to be like super right wing, and I think they want to be like a little bit weird, but I don't think they want to be so weird to the point where they go Donald Trump, because I feel like Fox News can see that Donald Trump is like digging a grave for himself. And anyone who follows him is going also to end up in that grave as being super fucking weird. So I think that they want to have a sort of air of centrism, but on the right, to be like, we should, they don't want to alienate people too much. Yeah. And as you say, they want to seem legitimate a little bit, even though they're so weird.
One of the things that Fox always says about their coverage, and it's been shown to be, dubious at best, that there's a difference between their news and what is called like their entertainment. So like they want to say, well, like there's a difference between Decision Desk and Tucker Carlson. And that like their news department is real journalists who are grown-ups who are doing actual journalism work, while the pundits are doing, news entertainment. It's the Daily Show, but for psychopaths. So, like, the thing is, like, it's not true. There's still, like, a huge right-wing bent to the neutral news coverage, but I do think that they do try to at least make that one seem legitimate.
Yeah. Fox News is, like, entry-level, far-right conspiracy area. And they want to keep as being the gateway. They don't want to go full weird.
Yeah. Next question from Mia. When is Mia going to marry a Swedish prince/princess and become a true princess herself?
I've had this question. I do not need legitimacy from marriage. I derive legitimacy from God themselves.
Ah, yes.
I crown myself because my authority comes from God. Not by human law or the church. My power is divine.
People ruled an entire continent for centuries, just saying, "Well, why are you? God said so."
God said so.
Excalibur. Okay, should we expect other advanced species to be more responsible than us, or do you think we'll find that every intelligent species comes up with destructive ideologies like capitalism and ruins their home world?
I don't think capitalism is going to be like universal between like aliens, but I also think that there's going to be irresponsible people in every intelligent society. I think, right? Yeah. I mean, in any race that's intelligent enough to be smart is also intelligent enough to be weird about it.
Yeah, I do think that it does take a lot of work for, even if we didn't have capitalism, it would be hard for us to figure out how to have a sort of balanced relationship. The thing is, like, we have no fucking clue, because this is all speculation and guessing, because we live in a society and not that society. But our own experience has shown that there are multiple different ways to not respecting the environment. And there's, theories out there that destruction of our natural ecosystem of intelligent creatures is what's called one of the great filters. And that's one of the reasons that we don't see aliens everywhere, is because we destroy our life support systems before we can figure out how to not do that. Or that it's not possible to live sustainably, and that it's basically inevitable that we always destroy the ecosystem that intelligent life develops on. The problem with that is we have a sample size of 1, and we haven't even seen if we can survive this filter yet. So it's like really incomplete information. So anything is like pure speculation.
Yeah, anything is possible at this point.
Mm-hmm. Or we can go full Posadist and say that capitalism develops on all alien worlds, and that communism eventually defeats it, and that the UFOs are trying to bring communism to the universe, and that the scientifically determined, if we just figure out how to start a nuclear war, then we can have our dream society. All right, now here's a fun question that I don't know if it's actually answerable. Can you help me figure out where the fuck Glenn Greenwald sits politically?
No. No one knows.
So Glenn Greenwald's left The Intercept and is kind of trying to join the IDW now. Glenn Greenwald, I think, his political ideology is Glenn Greenwald is the greatest journalist of all time, and and brave and smart, and doesn't need anybody else. Glenn Greenwald,
he doesn't afraid of anything.
Yeah, Glenn Greenwald seems to have left-wing tendencies. This is true, but also he doesn't seem to be the most critical thinker in the world, and so he gets himself wrapped up in weird conspiracies. And on top of that, if anybody ever tries to say, "Hey, you might be wrong on this take you have," his instinct is to double down over and over again. Like, he's the one who, after the election, was like, no, Russia happened. Russia didn't happen. Russia's fine. And then when all the evidence came out that Russia was doing stuff, he tried to double down and say, no, that's not. And he he just kept just holding on to that. And then when it came to he bought into the Hunter Biden laptop conspiracy, and he was really obsessed with that one.
What happened to that, by the way? After the election, that story just went away.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's surprising that this laptop that Rudy Giuliani just produced out of the blue just doesn't seem to be all that credible. I mean, I think some legit stuff did come out of the stuff, like the Hunter Biden sex tapes, just that no one gave a shit. Because it just showed how cool Hunter Biden is.
Yeah.
Because all the video showed was, oh man,
cool
Hunter Biden just has
kid.
a giant schlong and has sex with many beautiful women. Man, what a loser. But in the end, I think, I don't know, Glenn Greenwald just he gets wrapped up in these weird conspiracies, and he's what I'm calling the Russia Today left, or the Tulsi left.
That's a pretty good way of putting it.
Where I think what happens is that the dedication to anti-American imperialism means that everybody who is part of that is good. So far right media billionaire fucking Vladimir Putin, he's good because he's fighting American hegemony. Bashar al-Assad, the dictator of Syria who gassed his own people, he's good because he's fighting U.S. imperialism. Like, yeah. I don't know what to call. I kind of want to make a Tristan won't shut up about the Tulsi left, and
do it. It'll be great.
Glenn Greenwald seems like the kind of leftist who turns into a fascist at some point. Like, I have a feeling like his political positions feel like what like Mussolini's political positions before he became a fascist would be like. I know that's like a bold, spicy thing to say, but like, just like being a leftist, but seeing all of these like really problematic conspiracy theories behind everything just feels like you just need to be convinced by like one conspiracy to like go full like Red Browning. You just have to blame the wrong person for something. I don't know. Just okay. Do you think Joe Manchin would really veto court packing if the Senate ends up 50-50? Joe Manchin, if I remember correctly, he's like the right-wing Democrat that they always wheel out to ruin things.
Him who's who's basically a Republican.
Yeah, he's the West Virginia Democratic
he probably
senator.
would. I don't think Democrats would be able to do court packing because all Republicans would be against it, and more than a few Democrats would also be against it.
Yeah, court packing.
Democrats are notoriously bad at following the party line.
Yeah, court packing.
Republicans are great at it, but Democrats don't know how to do it.
This is true. I'm not going to answer that question because it's dumb drama stuff. Would the 1950s GOP be a sock dem party by today's standards? I mean, the 1950s GOP made campaign buttons about how much Republicans love unions, so take that where it might. That was back. So the thing is, like, the GOP in the 1950s was this. There's two major factions in the GOP. This is before like the hyper radical conservative, like what would become the neocons and stuff like that, were entered the party. That was more like in the 60s and 70s. So the party was like a mix. Like the GOP was sort of a mix of like northern Protestant interests and like pro-business people. Like, for example, the Rockefellers were a very big faction. Like, Rockefeller Republicans was a term. They were very much like they wanted to make the world a better place, but they also just didn't want anybody to fuck with their money. And so there was a lot of like benevolent businessmen type people. And so it was very much the party of pro-business, while like the Democratic Party was like the party of the common man. That are, but also the party of like white supremacists in the South. It was like the parties in the 1950s were more like focused on identity and like regional concerns. Like instead of like I'm focused on like these different they were kind of pre-ideological, I guess is the word to say. They were more like, hey, go get me 30,000 Polish votes in downtown Manhattan or something. Just like, offer them money or something. And the 50s was sort of when they were transitioning out of like that part of American history and into more ideological American history. And the 1950s, you did have more like radical conservatives like Joe McCarthy. And so it was becoming more of a thing. A lot of the like liberal Republicans kind of left because of the FDR times. So yeah, there was a lot of like anti-New Deal people. It's a more complicated party, but like just because of like the rightward drift of politics over the last like 50, 60 years, or 70 years, I guess I should say now. Like they would be considered way too far. Like a 50s Republican would almost be on par with like a more like moderate Democrat today.
Yeah. I don't know anything about American history, politics, so I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah, I should stop like ranting about things when I can't get you to, or when it's not a thing that you.
No, that's good. This is an us podcast or
right.
stream. If you know things, you can talk about it. I don't mind.
Here's a question. Okay, this might be complex, but we have 5 minutes, so we'll
Great. That's all we need.
Is it weird that I've only dated trans people? I've been thinking about that and was wondering if it was weird or was an accidental quote unquote chaser.
I mean, if you're worried about that, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
The people who don't give a shit, those are the people you have to worry about. Like if you even have the concern to be like, am I weird about this? Then you're like, I'm 99% fine. Like, I don't know you, I don't know your life, but like, you're probably fine. That's gonna be my hot take.
Okay, that was actually easier than I thought.
Does that make sense? Okay. Like, I don't know. I feel like the issue with like chaserism isn't. A lot of people talk about like people who only date trans people are weird because they're chasers, but that's not really where the problem with chasers exists. The problem with chasers exists because they like fetishize and dehumanize trans people, and the trans people that they date, and like they chase after them in a very like non-consensual, creepy way. That's where the crux is, because it's like it's abusive or bordering to abusive. But if you're dating trans people and you're being respectful and like being a good person who doesn't like manipulate or abuse or stuff like that, then you're fine. Like that, if you don't do bad stuff, you're fine. That like your preference then, in my opinion, doesn't actually matter that much. Like, because that's not where the crux of the issue lies. The crux of the issue lies how they treat the people, not necessarily who the people are. Because I mean there are people who chase after cis women and treat them super bad and abuse them too. But we know the problem isn't like the preference of who they date. The problem is how they treat those people.
This sounds like a complaint that many Asian women deal with, actually.
Really?
That the same like fetishization and just like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, as long as you don't fetishize and like dehumanize a person, then I think you're fine.
Yeah. Just what trans people needed. Another reason for dating to be complicated and dangerous.
There are so many reasons.
Yeah. Oh boy. Mia, have you decided your opinion on? I've never seen this name before. Have you decided your opinion on Nushi Dadgostar?
Yeah, she seems nice. But I don't know much more about her. We'll see how she works. She is the new party leader for the left party in Sweden.
Okay.
She seems nice. Her Twitter handle is no bullshit. I think something like that.
Oh no, she's no bullshit. The
no, not that one. Not that one. But like it's some pun on like no shit or no bullshit, from her name. But she seems nice.
I've never seen that name before. Where does it come from?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
It's cool.
But she seems nice, and I think the former leader of the left party is like almost legendary in Swedish politics. Even though the left party is like very, very small in like overall Swedish politics, the former leader was like the most respected in all the polls. Like even people on the right wing who hated the left party and everything that they stood for, like were still like, yeah, the leader is a pretty good guy. He went to anime conventions. He gave relationship advice to people on Instagram. Like he was a pretty nice dude.
So I know that her name is Iranian. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the shoes she has to fill are like pretty big. She has a lot to live up to because the former leader is like, again, very popular, grew the left party significantly, kept it to the left, which was very important in the last election, and all those things. So she seems nice, but we'll see how she goes. Again, it'll take a while for her to get into it. I'm not that involved in like left party internal politics, so I don't know how she became leader, but she seems nice.
That sounds nice. At least it sounds like you're cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean the left party is not that leader focused. It's more like it's very, the entire party itself is like very active and very like ongoing, and it's very much led from the bottom up. So the leader, it doesn't really affect that much, but she seems like a good leader for the position that she holds and the work that she does. I think she'll be good.
Now, can I have a left party in Canada?
Absolutely fucking not. That's against the Canadian Constitution.
Oh. Can't have a left party because the RCMP killed them all.
But the interesting thing about the Swedish left party is they're just the Communist Party rebranded. Because back in the 90s, they were the Swedish Communist Party, but then the Soviet Union collapsed, and suddenly communism became a bad word. And so they became the left party and became like social democrats.
Well...
But they became like actual social democrats, like very, very lefty social democrats. Basically, as left as a suck them you can become.
Makes sense. So, okay, well, it is 2:00. You got a whole extra minute of primo Nushi Dadgastar content. Before we go to raid people, I think we're gonna raid Rob Rousseau, who's a pretty fun journalist.
I don't know what that is. That'll be interesting.
Would you like to tell people where to go to consume your content?
Yes, you can consume my content on youtube.com/c/meamulder, or on twitter.com/potatopolitics, or on watchnebula.com/meamulder, or on twitch.tv/meamulder.
Yeah.
That's where I am. It's good content. Go watch it. Tomorrow I'll play Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, probably.
Twitch. Have you played Workers and Resources Soviet Republic?
I have played Workers and Resources Soviet Republic.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go see Rob Rousseau.
Very good game.
See you guys later. I'll be around tomorrow.